And I mean, again, just to say, we have known each other forever. But it's usually been you stood at the front of the orchestra and me sat down at the back of it. And, you know, it's been over a cup of coffee or whatever. So it is really lovely to have this opportunity to sort of talk about things we don't normally get a chance to talk about. Beginnings for me was I had an incredibly musical family. My dad was a drummer, and both my uncles were drummers too. So that was kind of there right from the beginning. My mom was a really talented singer, so I don't ever remember a point there ever not being music in the house. And my mom and dad were both jazz lovers. So my dad used to have a big band and my mom used to sing in that, and that kind of music, and indeed any sort of music, was just really important to our lives, really. So they were massive influences right from the word go. Indeed, all my family were. And then I got the opportunity to go to Cheetham School of Music at 11.
Wow.
Now, that you know, we're talking a long time ago now. We're talking early 70s. And it kind of blew my mind because I wasn't a particularly talented musician. And I think I got in by the skin of my teeth. And I certainly realized that that was the case when I was just confronted by this amazing array of talent amongst my peer group, really. So, you know, whilst I was struggling, I hadn't really started playing percussion seriously at that point. And I was playing piano. And I quickly realized that I was going to be no pianist. You know, just to give you an idea, we had a little percussion ensemble that my first teacher used to run. And in that percussion ensemble was Stephen Huff,
Ooh,
who
wow.
was a brilliant snare drum player. Wayne Marshall
Oh, goodness.
was a fantastic timpanist. And that's, you know, so I understood very early on that if I'm dealing with musicians at 11, 12, 13, and, you know, Wayne was playing the Gershwin Piano Concerto by the time he was kind of like 12 or 13. So you kind of get to know your place real quick when you're in an environment like that. So it wasn't really till I started playing percussion seriously and realized that that was going to be the right direction for me, that I really seriously started to put some time into it. And like all of those things, once you really start to work, then things kind of start to happen. So that was my sort of early background from 11 right the way through to 18. And then kind of a year before you started at the academy, I started at the Royal College. And was lucky enough to have some fantastic teachers there, mainly Alan Cumberland and Mike Skinner. And in the same way that you had that wonderful relationship with Jimmy Blades and Nick Cole, I was kind of having a similar brilliant experience with Alan and Mike. So, you know, I know how important those relationships were to you. And it was exactly the same for me, to be perfectly honest.
And it's sort of interesting in a way how the people who often influence us or where we truly listen is, in fact, the people who are right there on our doorstep. You know, you mentioned Wayne Marshall and Stephen Huff. I mean, those are extraordinary musicians who are extraordinary people as well, and their interests are so varied. And I think it is, you know, always an interesting journey when you're that age, you know, a young person starting out, and you're quite daunted by who's around you, and you always think everybody else is sort of so much better than yourself. But there must be something within you that says, well, hold on a second, this is what I also want to do. You know, this is the path that I want to explore, and there has to be that kind of stalwart something or another that's inside of a person, you know.
Well, the amazing thing about being able to mix on a daily basis as a kid with your peer group who are so talented is, if you've kind of got any gumption at all, you'll learn from them. So to be surrounded by this incredible talent, and it wasn't just Wayne and Stephen, they were just everywhere you looked and listened were just amazing young musicians, and not all of them rose to the heights that we see with, you know, your good self and Stephen and Wayne. But there were some incredible musicians. So I think I had the nous to kind of like, well, why don't you latch onto that? And if nothing else, just copy it. Just what is it that they're doing that is really, really good, and try and do something with the talent that I've got. And you know, I've never been massively talented, I think. So I've always had to work. I've always had to work really, really hard. Whereas, again, being an environment like a specialist music school or whatever, as you'll know, is that sometimes things just come really easily to those people that they just seem to be able to do it straight away. It's so frustrating. And I've never been like that. I've always had to really work at things. And, you know, that's kind of no bad thing, because
Absolutely.
especially now and what we've had to deal with in the past year and stuff, I've kind of gone back to that of I'm really working pretty hard on my playing at the moment, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And I think to always remember that to get anywhere, you've got to work at it. So it's always my kind of advice to students and to anybody really, that it's there for you, but you have to put the work in. And as soon as you stop working at it, that's when things will, you know, so it never stops, as you know, it never stops. We never figure it out. We just have to keep going.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I was talking with Zakir Hussain, the wonderful tabla player, not so long ago. And, you know, he's such a humble man, I can't tell you. And, you know, basically, we all see him as a god of tabla, we really do. And yet, you know, he said he's constantly just sitting at the tabla and almost thinking about the basics again. You know, how is he sitting at the tabla? Are the hands talking to each other? You know, are they communicating with each other? What is the balance? And so on and so forth. I mean, what we regard as the kind of basic ingredients, but yet everything has to spring from that. And it was just so interesting, really, you know, having someone like Zakir mention those sort of things, because you're right, it doesn't matter how much talent a particular individual has, everybody has to work, you know, everybody has to work at something, you know, they really do.